Okay, so it's now time to start writing our Parvana essay. So we've read Parvana, okay, read all the chapters, we have done our reciprocal reading in regards to our group work with literature circles, and it's now time to start moving on towards an analytical essay. Okay, this is probably the first analytical essay that you guys have written, so it's really, really important that we get the first steps underway to make sure that we have a really good piece of writing by the end of this particular process. So you have to write an essay, and it's not all doom and gloom, okay? If I said to you guys right now, write an essay, it's probably going to be quite worrying or a little bit concerning, but I'm going to give you these steps that you need in order to make the process as easy as possible and to also get rid of some of that anxiety. Because writing an essay shouldn't be worrying, okay? You should be able to write with confidence that you know how to address this particular prompt. And it should be a really easy process if you follow these key steps. So first of all, we have an introduction. So I've asked you all to open up to your essay notes section there to make a couple of notes as we go through this particular presentation. So the first thing that we'll go through is an introduction. In our introduction, we should have 3 key points. The first is that we introduce the novel and author, including 2 to 3 sentences about what the novel is about. The second is that we provide our stance or opinion on the topic. You might know this is your point of view. In high school, we start calling this your contention. So what is your understanding of the topic? Do you agree with the topic or do you disagree with the topic? You've known it as your point of view, it's now going to be classed as your contention. And number 3, we're going to introduce your 4 main arguments. So an introduction is literally that. It is introducing your essay to your reader. It is providing, with step number 1 here, a brief introduction about the novel and the author, because we're going to include 2 to 3 sentences about what the novel is about. So the reader here is getting a background information on the text before we launch into a theme of the text in regards to the essay topic that you're going to be responding to. So we have to assume that our reader has read Parvana, but we also want to imagine they've read it maybe a little bit and maybe 2 or 3 terms ago. So you might need a bit of recapping about what the text is about. Why do we think it's important to include step number 2 there? Why do you think in our introduction we need to provide our stance or opinion on the topic, in other words, our contention? Angelina?
So then the person that's reading it, knows if it's a good book or not.
Okay, so if it's a good book or not, that kind of goes towards a book review, yeah? So if we were giving a review of the book, our contention would be if it was a good book or a bad book, yeah? So we're doing we're doing an essay, not a book report at the moment. So with a book report, when you write it, your contention is if you like the book or you didn't like the book, so if it's a good book or a bad book. Very similar to an essay, why do you think it's important that we include our contention within the introduction? So our point of view, if we agree with the prompt or disagree. Dean?
So the reader understands what the rest of the essay is going to be about.
Excellent. Okay. When I pick up your essays, or when anyone else picks up your essay, we should know from the introduction what your essay is going to be about. So are you going to argue for or against the prompt? Very similar to persuasive writing, where you choose a side with essay writing. But instead of persuading your reader to agree with you, you're going to draw on direct evidence from the text to support your idea. Mark?
What are we arguing?
I'm going to tell you that in a moment. Yeah, we're going to unpack the essay question together. I just want us to know first how to structure an introduction. Any questions about introductions there? Step number 3 is really important. We're going to introduce our 4 main arguments. Who can tell me what this means for our essay?
Like we're arguing like topics and questions?
Yeah, so each of our paragraphs will have a different topic, yep.
Like our 4 main parts of evidence?
Okay, so our 4 main parts of evidence, so our 4 body paragraphs. So your essay will have your introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, body paragraph 3, body paragraph 4, and your conclusion. So all up, 6 paragraphs. Here's an introduction example. Parvana, a novel by Deborah Ellis, tells of the struggles of a young Afghani girl named Parvana living under the constraints of Taliban rule. Throughout the novel, Parvana is forced to break Taliban law in order to survive, demonstrating that in certain circumstances, breaking the law is the right thing to do. For example, Parvana dresses like a boy to move around and work in the marketplace. She, okay, and the introduction would go on. That's just the first part of it. The end. Therefore, Parvana shows that in life-threatening situations, breaking the law is the right thing to do. Who can have a guess at what you think the topic for this essay might be?
Is breaking the law the right thing to do?
Okay. How did you come to that, Jackie?
Because it says that in the introduction that Parvana is breaking the law, and then it says a few times that therefore it is right to break the law in certain circumstances.
Excellent. Okay. So obviously we understand this particular prompt. So the topic for this essay is in regards to breaking the law, and is it the right thing to do? So it starts off, Parvana. What do you notice about Parvana there?
You used her name in the title of the book.
Okay, so we've used the title of the book at the start. Yeah? But what's significant about this? What's different compared to that Parvana?
It's a title and not a name.
How do we know that?
Because it says Parvana, a novel by Deborah Ellis.
Yeah, so if you get rid of a novel by Deborah Ellis, how do we know that's the title and not the name you mentioned?
Is that because it's underlined?
Yes. This is an important note. I want everyone to write this down in your essay notes. Whenever you are referring to Parvana as a book, it must be underlined. Whenever you are referring to Parvana as a book, it must be underlined. Do we have to underline Parvana when we're talking about Parvana as the character? No. Because if we look at the first sentence, if Parvana here wasn't underlined, it would sound as if Parvana, the girl, was a novel. Okay? Not the actual text. So whenever you mention Parvana, it must be underlined if you're talking about the text rather than the character. So Parvana, a novel by Deborah Ellis. Introduction of the novel and the author. So the very first thing we hear is the title of the text and who wrote it. Pretty simple. Tells the struggles of a young Afghani girl named Parvana living under the constraints of Taliban rule. This is a brief sentence explaining what the novel is about. So already, I know what the text is called, I know who wrote it, and I know a little bit of information about the text. Perfect. Any questions about that? Throughout the novel, Parvana is forced to break Taliban law in order to survive, demonstrating that in certain circumstances breaking the law is the right thing to do. Statement of contention or point of view. So from what Jackie said before, we understand purely from reading this introduction that the topic is in regards to, is it the right thing to break the law under particular circumstances? What's the contention of this author here? What's their contention?
To prove that Parvana was doing the right thing breaking the Taliban law.
Okay, so under certain circumstances, it is the right thing to do in regards to breaking the law. Do we think that contention is pretty strong?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I now know the title of the text, who wrote it, background information, the prompt, and their contention. So within 3 sentences, I know 5 things. So essays are all in regards to giving information, so feeding your reader information. For example, Parvana dresses like a boy to move around and work in the marketplace. She ... Okay, so from these ... here, we understand this introduction is a little bit longer. We've just cut out some information. What's this doing here? For example, Parvana dresses like a boy to move around and work in the marketplace. What's that doing? What's the purpose of having that there, Mariah?
Giving the person an idea of how she's breaking the law.
Okay, excellent. In our introduction, remember in the third step of the introduction slide, it said that we have to introduce our 4 main arguments. This is obviously their first argument. So Parvana did the right thing in breaking the law because she had to go and work in the marketplace. So we understand that this particular author's first body paragraph is going to be about how Parvana dressed up as a boy. We know that. They would then list in other sentences their second argument, third argument, and fourth argument. What sounds better? For example, Parvana dresses like a boy to move around and work in the marketplace. Or, the first example of this is when Parvana dresses up as a boy. Which one sounds better?
The first one.
Why is that?
Because when you talk straight to the person, it doesn't sound like as good. Because, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So we can start getting rid of those signposting. To go first example, second example, third example. We can start getting rid of that, yeah, and develop a more sophisticated piece of writing. So we can go straight into it rather than giving it a bit of a prefix there. Therefore, Parvana shows that in life-threatening situations, breaking the law is the right thing to do. What has this author done at the end of their introduction?
It pretty much concluded their opinion and this example.
Brilliant. So they've concluded with their opinion. Does their opinion relate to the prompt? Their very last sentence there, does it relate to the prompt?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think it's important in your last sentence of your introduction that it should relate to the prompt? Haley?
So that it kind of like wraps it up.
Yeah, it wraps it up. Okay? It's almost like 2 pieces of bread with a sandwich in the middle. Yeah? It's whacked another slice of bread on underneath. So it's contained it in a whole.
Just a question about the essay.
Yes.
Can we use the word I?
I would rather you not. Yeah? Because I already know that it's your opinion. So I would like you to experiment with not using I. Why do you think I'd like you to experiment with not using the word I, Martin?
It's more like a story, kind of, or summary.
Yeah, so obviously there's a summary there, Jackie.
Because when you read essays, they don't usually say I because you know who's writing it already.
Yeah, I know who's written it, and I know it's your opinion. So and also creates a more sophisticated piece of writing. Yeah, I know it's going to be really, really hard, especially if you've written I a lot. We're now going to try and move away from that. I know it's your opinion. How else can you start off sentences rather than I think or I believe? Are there any questions about our introduction there, Jackie?
I was just going to do a question about the essay in general.
Yep,
Does it have to be a certain length?
I'll get to that. Yeah.
Instead of I concluded it is believed that.
Yeah, it is believed that. Yep. Nick?
You could also put in my opinion instead of I think.
I'd like you not to use I or my, because I know it's yours. When I pick yours up, Nick, and it has your name on it, I know that's your opinion already. Yeah? Mario?
Are you putting that as a challenge to us? Like not using I or mine?
No, I would like you not to use I or my.
No, I'm asking, is it like you're trying to challenge us not to use it in our writing?
Yeah. I already know it's your opinion. You don't need to tell me that it is your opinion. Okay. Any questions about introduction before we move on?
How long does the introduction have to be?
Okay, so the introduction, that length, plus another 3 examples. So a little bit longer than that.
Also, for the essay, can you use the word and?
Yes, you can use the word and. Yeah. So your introduction should be about this length, plus an extra 3 sentences because we have left out 3 examples that we're going to be talking about.